last night.
Pardon?
I heard you had some fun last night. Out your way.
You won't believe what I said. But it was good, yes. It was very good. Hi. How are you? I owe you a lunch. I owe you a lunch. Because you're a good person and you helped me a lot. Yeah, I do. Okay, then here we go, Christina.
I know. Yeah. Okay. Is that one?
And for his first acting, the mayor's gonna ride a bike. Not you?
Should we get the roll on the show? He's coming. Yeah. He'll be late. Welcome to our city council meeting. Appreciate everyone being here. Let's start with an invocation by Jesse Stocking from Solomon's Porch, Foursquare Fellowship, and afterwards I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Jesse?
Good afternoon, Council. I'm here on behalf of the St. George Interfaith Council and, of course, Solomon's Porch. And so let us join together in prayer. Our gracious and loving Father in heaven, we come together in prayer to give thanks for all that you have given us, for this beautiful city and community, and ask that you give the guidance of your will to all of the members of this council and of the city of St. George and all the departments, to help them in all the projects that they are working on to best serve our community. We are truly blessed to live in such a great place and to have such wonderful public servants who work hard to continue making St. George a great place. I also ask that you would provide a mighty hedge of protection for those who keep us safe and put themselves in harm's way to do so. Those in the police department, the fire department, and other areas. That you would make safe and make straight their path in all the works that they do as they serve to keep us safe. I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Thank you, Jesse. Appreciate the Interfaith Council for providing invocations or thoughts as we do every meeting every week, just about for the last 6 years. So, oh, we don't, do we? Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have several kind of pre-written agenda items that we'd like to go through if we could. First of all, May was Bike Month. We always have a lot of fun things going on during Bike Month, and so first of all, we got to start with we got a prize to give away on behalf of Southern Utah Bicycle Association and the Health Department and Healthy Dixie and the City of St. George and others that have been involved. We have this bike sitting over here with no one to ride it right now. So we're going to give that away. And it's because there was a contest during May. Mark, would you just maybe come explain it briefly? And then we'll announce who the recipient of this prize, this bike is.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, in social media, we had a hashtag which was Bike Dixie during the month of May. And part of the contest was, as part of Bike to Work Week, we asked those who are biking to work to post photos of the events they attended, also of their bike at work, to encourage more people to ride to work. And the winner of our contest and the person who posted the most won a bike that was purchased through Red Rock Bicycle, and that is Brandon Ray. And he's here with us tonight, and
Right
so
there.
we'd like to call him up. And Mayor, if we could, let's like to get just a photo of Brandon with you and his new bike. It's a pretty nice bike, and that the tires will never go flat in that bike. There's no tubes in it, so.
Pretty hard. Congratulations. I appreciate it. Thanks for all your support. That's really cool. We had a full month of different activities, and city council even and others at the city went on a little ride as we were kind of checking out bike lanes and no bike lanes and other things as we went around downtown. And we had the Bike with Pike event earlier in the month, and Bike to Work week and day, where we had, God, was it how many? 5 or 6 pit stops in the city, and I think one maybe in Washington. I can't remember. Does that sound right? And so I think better than ever. More people participating. It was a lot of fun, and pointing out too that it's for a lot of people it can be an option, and we want it to be more of an option to actually bike to work and to various commercial areas along the way. So that's great. And in a related story, Judith Ronley, who is the director of our own Bicycle Collective, will you come and introduce your new, can we say boss, and bring her up with you, Donna McAleer, and tell us just a little bit about her, or she can, but please introduce her. Tell us the relationship there.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pike. Thank you to the City Council, Sean, to give us a second. Yes, so I'm Judith Rani, the director of the Bicycle Collective here in St. George. You all know me. We are a network of 4 collectives around the state. We have one in Ogden, one in Provo, one in Salt Lake City, and the one down here in St. George. And we have a new executive director. She came down here from Salt Lake City to introduce herself and to visit our operation, to get acquainted with us. Her name is Donna McAleer, and I will give her the mic to introduce herself.
Yes. Thank you, Judith.
Thank
Welcome,
you, Mayor
Donna.
Pike. Thank you so much, council members, for hosting me and welcoming and being supportive of the Bicycle Collective. As you all know, our mission is around promoting cycling as a sustainable, affordable, and reliable means of transportation and recreation. But more importantly than that is making cycling affordable to everybody and helping people change their status and their well-being. We all know food and shelter is primary on the hierarchy of needs, but mobility is the next important step in helping people get a job and secure a job and in their health, to attend medical appointments, to go grocery shopping. And so what the collective does is we refurbish and upcycle donated bicycles from around the community, and our skilled staff mechanics and our volunteers rebuild and refurbish those, making those available for sale in our bike shops. So we earn some of our revenue through earned income in the shops. And then the other bikes we provide for people in financial need and youth, and those come to us through various community partners in all the communities we operate. And we also have programs where both adults and youth can earn a bike, those that can't afford it. So in 2018 alone in the state of Utah, we provided bicycles to more than 550 adults and 830 children. And our impact is only growing, and the need is only growing. And really, we cut through all forms of being environmentally friendly and sustainable, being outside, building a healthy lifestyle, and providing reliable, sustainable transportation. We've also been doing a lot of work with our youth in terms of applied mathematics, right? Biking and building a bicycle is all about physics and mechanics. So we like to share with our youth, you know, hey, if you're interested in mechanics, look at how you can apply those things you're learning in math. So we love being here. We have a wonderful location that's easily accessible to the population down here, and that's really important given the population we serve. So we thank you so much for your support. This community is amazing in terms of their contribution of time, of talent, and treasure, whether they're volunteering in the shop, whether they're donating bikes, or whether they're providing financial support of the organization. So thank you.
You know,
Thank you.
You should know that this council really supports bicycling via the city mayor.
Well, I
Now,
heard.
we support it, but John rides the bikes, and you will see him all over town. You can't recognize him sometimes because he's got his helmet on.
Hey, he's
But
being
he is-
safe,
he is
right?
our lead
That's
man
all
on
about
that.
safety, right?
That's
So
right.
I like that bike with Pike. That's I
Well-
like that moniker, and it's an example of leadership. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, thank you. Some people just tell me to take a hike, Pike, but you know.
Well, you know,
hey,
you
that
can't
works
please
too.
everybody.
Yeah.
'Cause that's also a form of
So
exercise.
yeah, next year we'll do a walk, you know, so.
You could do both.
Yeah, we have, actually, we have a mayor's walk every year at the, in conjunction with the marathon, so.
So, yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. And I also want to make sure we acknowledge, as I shared, we have a very dedicated, small paid staff. We have an incredible set of volunteers in this community who contribute a significant amount of time. But I also want you to know about our board members. This is not a board you come onto and you attend a board meeting and you read a financial report and you maybe vote for approval. These are working board members who all take an active role. And two of them are here tonight, Danielle Larkin and Jack Moran, who not only work in this shop, they are constantly involved in promoting the Bicycle Collective, putting on events like Trail Prom, supporting Udith, helping us in terms of location. So these board members are highly dedicated to this organization, and you'll find those across the entire board. So we're here to stay and continue to increase our impact.
Well, we appreciate you all and, you know, hope you get to stay in that location a little longer, okay? So
Thank you.
hang in there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great to meet you, Donna. Okay, I think this is the last pre-agenda thing, but we have a presentation to be made regarding the U.S. Census for 2020, and we're pleased to have Deanne Zeblin with us to present that to us. Thank you, Deanne, for being here.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm going to give you just a quick briefing just to make sure everyone is up and up to date on the census that's coming up in 2020. So we're doing a housing and population count. It takes place every 10 years based on from the basis of the Constitution. We're required to do a housing and population count every 10 years. And it's important to this community and to the United States as a whole because it allows us to have fair representation and fair distribution of funding, which is, so by December of 2020, we will deliver the counts to the President of the United States, who will then reapportion the House of Representatives accordingly to population. And then that data is also used to distribute $675 billion worth of funds from the federal government down into the states and then into the local communities.
You know, what you have to say is so important that I need to ask you to get a little closer to the
Okay.
mic. Because
Is this better?
on this side, Joe and I are on the senior side, and so
Perfect.
Speak for yourself, Ed, right?
Perfect.
Thanks.
Well, we are very excited for this 2020 census. As you know, the state of Utah is the fastest growing state. and that is due in part to St. George being one of the fastest growing cities. Between Provo and St. George, you guys are always in the top 5 cities. Right now, your estimations as of 2018 are 87,178. So we are very excited to get a complete and accurate count. Mayor Pike has already appointed a liaison for the city of St. George. Mark Mortensen will be leading the complete count committee here, and he has done a phenomenal job. I attended one of his committee meetings this week, and he has identified the trusted voices in your community, and I think they're well on their way. You'll hear more information on an ongoing basis from that committee. Just to let you know what to expect in your community, the official census day is April 1st of 2020. By the first part of March, starting March 12th through the 20th, you will be receiving an invitation via mail to participate in the census. And then there will be 5 invitations via mail to get your population to actually self-take the census, which is when we get the very best information. So our goal is to get the most accurate and complete count here to make sure you get the right resources here in St. George. At the end of May through July is when we start our non-response phase follow-up, and that's when we'll start to send census workers to the homes of individuals who need more help filling out the census. So that gives you a little briefing. Any questions I can quickly answer for you?
That's a Herculean effort, isn't it?
That's what I told Mark, 3 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah. So, any questions, council?
No, but I mentioned to her a little earlier how important census is, because if you do family history in this community, I'm telling you, this census really helps out. And so it's not only in keeping the population up and keep making sure we get our share of revenue, but it helps in some other positive ways, and we appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and
All right.
we will certainly do everything we can to help. And Mark, thank you for leading that effort on behalf of the city.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deanne.
Mayor.
And I've been saying 85,000, so now I knew it felt busier than that. Yeah. Yes, Betty?
I just have one little thing, and I don't think this individual wanted me to, but I have read through this, and we have one of our directors that's received an honor from the American Public Power Association.
Oh, she's sitting right in the back.
Lori Mangum. They have identified 5 women leaders, really dynamic women leaders in the power industry, to help other women identify how they can be more productive and more involved in leading the power in our nation. And Lori was chosen, so I just wanted her to know how proud we are of her. It's great.
Way to go, Lori. You're clapping kind of loud there, Cameron. No, that's great. We're thrilled. We have such great employees, and they're led by fantastic department heads. We appreciate all that they do. All right. Adam, in terms of the agenda, any changes? And maybe you can tell us as we do this. As you can tell, Council, we actually have 3 meetings tonight.
We do 3 separate meetings. The council's going to have to swap hats a couple of times. You'll act as the municipal building authority and also the redevelopment agency for the city. So we'll go back and forth. I would recommend that we do our regular council agenda and then the RDA and then finally the MBA at the end.
Sounds
Just
good.
that last item.
So I've got mine in that order. Any other changes or any changes to the agendas?
Nope, no changes.
Okay, very good. Let's see. One thing we will do is we'll start with the consent calendar. I'm going to also just let the council know, I think we're going to need a closed meeting tonight, right, Adam? So just to set your expectations. It is a busy night tonight. We got a lot we got to do, but we'll probably take off a night or 2 in July, so we'll try to make up for it as we have some holidays. Anyway, on the consent calendar, I believe there's one item, Adam, that we'd like to have just an opportunity to clarify or to have some information on.
Yeah, let's provide some background information on item D. It's our watering restrictions. We'll have Renee go over that with us. This is something we do every year, but we just thought it would be worth spending a minute on to refresh everyone on this.
Much of the value of doing this is to have it be public, so we will highlight this in our Facebook account, I'm sure, and others, and we hope the media will highlight it. Renee?
Thank you, and you're right, this is why we try to make sure we discuss this a bit at city council meeting, just to make sure our customers are aware. We're entering the heat of the summer. We want to be as efficient as we can with our watering, so we're requesting that the council approve daytime watering restrictions, meaning we'd like people to water between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m., although our system peaks around 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning, so if you can set your clocks, most of us don't even have to think about it much, to water other than between 4 and 6. It helps with the peak demand, meaning some of our neighbors may not have low water pressure during those 2 hours if we can get our irrigation scheduled around that. And it also keeps us from watering when it's windy. It's usually calmer at night. And the other issue I'd like to point out that this applies to those watering with our drinking water. We have several large users, our city parks, cemeteries, golf courses, that use irrigation quality water. The production capacity on that system isn't large enough for us to get all of those folks watered in a 12-hour period. So you will still see some of those facilities being watered during the day because they're using raw irrigation quality water, which would include some reuse water treated at the wastewater treatment plant.
Glad to know that you noted those things.
Great.
And, again, wish we could have all the secondary water also watering in the evening. We just can't do it all. So as you see that, please note we're that secondary water irrigation or reuse, mostly irrigation, but some reuse. And, maybe over time we'll be able to do all that at night too, but it will take some more infrastructure to be able to do that. So most important, we just want to, the culinary water, we want to make sure we use that as the precious resource that it is. So.
And if I could give one more plug,
Yeah.
if you don't know how long to water your lawn for based on your irrigation system, call and schedule a free water check. An intern will come out, run your system, take a look at what kind of soil you have, and give you a suggested irrigation schedule that should allow you to keep your lawn healthy while reducing your water use. And you would do that by calling Julie, and the number there is 435-673-3617. It's a cooperative effort that the Conservancy District does.
Very good. I was at a meeting at the state capitol yesterday, and the issue of the Lake Powell pipeline came up, and we had a senator there who said, just tell us in, 1 minute or less, Mayor, and that was impossible, to why we should support at the state level the Lake Powell pipeline. And I said, well, because of the economic engine that we offer down here. And it is incredibly important that we conserve. And in fact, I told him we're doing better than any other county in the state at conserving, and we'll need to continue to do better. And anyway, I told him I still thought we needed the Lake Powell pipeline in addition. So anyway, this is important to do that. It is also, appreciate you bringing up that we don't all need to water at 5 a.m.
Right.
It'd be better if we didn't. Mine's set for 2 a.m.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to say I heard it go on last night, and I'm going, why am I awake? The chief of police can answer that question at another time. But anyway, that worked. We did that. We asked people to do that last year just voluntarily. We didn't give you any guidelines. We just said try doing some different times, and that helped, didn't it, Renee?
It did help a lot.
And Scott? Where's Scott?
He's in the
there he
corner.
is. That helped, didn't it? So, stagger your time a little bit, and that'll help us in terms of the demand.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Renee, appreciate that. Scott, thanks for your efforts with water. Is there anything, council, any concerns, anything else on the consent calendar that you would like further information on? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Mayor, a couple of comments. Number one, on the secondary water, since we're just speaking out, the last meeting we attended over at the Water Conservation District that discussed Lake Powell Pipeline, the question came up and was answered that on how effective secondary water is and how important it is. And the comment was made, I believe it was by Mr. Thompson, that St. George is the only city in the state that has a treatment process or treatment plant that is functioning for secondary water. So we are unique in that. Is that right, Scott?
I think we were first.
First?
We were the first.
We were the
Yeah.
first. So That was an
Kudos,
important-
huh?
Yeah, it really is important, I think. The other issue is on item F and G, because of the attention that our airport is receiving, we have two requests to approve hangars out at the airport. So we're continuing to have people, even though during this refurbishing process, that want to establish hangars in St. George. And I'd ask the city manager again, these two, are they on the west side, and these people are fully aware of what?
I think they're on the
transpired?
east side.
These are on the east side. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
And we do discuss all of the items out there, make sure that they understand, for example, when we're going to be reopened and things like that. Yep, they're aware of all of that.
And there are also requirements in terms of how they build and skirt them to avoid the water issues that some have had. Some are excavating pretty significantly, which they're, probably wise to do. So,
Thank you.
thanks for pointing those out. Any other questions or?
Mayor,
otherwise,
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent calendar for June 20th.
Second.
We have a motion by Betty and a second by Michelle to approve the consent calendar as presented. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Might just mention that I talked to our friend Rich Staymeyer at the airport this morning, just before I went on the radio, because I knew I'd get a question. And they are on schedule out there, right, Cameron? In fact, maybe even a few days ahead. And in fact, I think they're thinking they'll be ready to pave the first segment next week, is what I'm hearing. So, it's a little segment, but, every bit helps. I think it's the first 1,000 feet-ish.
I went and
So,
toured it last Friday morning.
pretty amazing, isn't it?
Unbelievable what they've done in
3 weeks.
In 3 weeks, the amount of dirt they've moved, it's crazy. So,
Thank you. And again, we'll provide those updates, and we are providing those through social media on a regular basis. David, I don't see David, but anyway, those are being provided so that we can have the public aware of that also. Okay, next, Adam.
All right, next up is item number 2, a resolution to review and approve amendments to the current fiscal year, the FY 18-19 budget. Also a public hearing. We'll have Deanna Berklasich review the amendments to this for you.
Okay, Mayor and Council, we are just about done with our fiscal year. We've got 10 more days left, and this is our last opportunity as a staff to come to you and ask for you to approve increases to some of the department budgets. We, as you know, we do this about every 3 months, and you've got a pretty short list in front of you this time because the departments are getting very well trained at submitting their budget openings during that 3-month period, and they do a great job at it, and they watch their budgets closely. So I will go ahead and you should have the list there in front of you. I'll go ahead and go through these fairly quickly. A lot of them are grant related. So the first one, item number 1, is grant related, and essentially our HIDA, it's the High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Grant. One of the grants was opened up to where we could get about $20,000 more dollars, and our police department is asking for a budget increase there in order to buy some additional surveillance equipment and to receive the training and some overtime that will go into that surveillance equipment before the end of the year. So they're going to be moving pretty quick on that budget opening. Number 2 is for Red Hills Golf Course. And this is when we did the Bluff Street widening project, or I should say when UDOT did the Bluff Street widening project. There was some new area in the golf course that they had to repair the sprinkling system and put down new sod right there in the corner of, I can't remember which hole it is, I think number 8T. And our crews were really resourceful and were able to do that all for $10,000, and they'll be able to cover that with new fees, not new fees, but additional fees that we've had come into the city. And then number 3 is for the Southgate Golf Course, and this is just when we do tournaments And the winners of those tournaments actually receive a certificate. Sometimes they don't redeem it right away. Their certificates have a 1-year expiration date, and so we could see a redemption of those certificates come back into a different fiscal year, and that's what this $7,000 is for some of those redemptions. And again, fortunately, their revenues have been better than we had budgeted, so we're able to cover that with increased revenues. Number 4 is a little confusing, and I'll just explain to you that at the end of the year, what we do is we try to allow for a budget that is high enough that if we should have any revenues that exceed our expenditures for one reason or another, such as maybe we didn't get through some projects in time, or maybe some of our revenues came in just a little bit more, we want to set these funds aside in a capital project fund. They're one-time monies that we can then bring back in a future fiscal year and maybe purchase police vehicles or a fire truck or some of those one-time costs. So just consider it like your own personal rainy day savings fund that we will rely upon in future years to do some projects. And that's what item number 4 is trying to explain there for you. Item number 5 is, now these are other funds, not the general fund, when we go to item number 5. And essentially what we're doing is we are closing out the 2010 flood projects and the 2012 flood projects. Believe it or not, we're in fiscal year 19, but it does take that long collectively for everyone in the county and everyone that's impacted by the flood projects for FEMA to actually physically close these projects out. And at that point, then we can close out our individual funds that have these projects in it. And basically what we're closing out is $87,900, and we're going to move that into our capital projects fund to be used at a later date. Number 6 is, again, a little bit confusing to the eye, but what it is it's our unbilled utilities. Because we added irrigation and sewer to the equation there, we're just doing a budget opening to increase the budgets, and it's basically a net wash because we don't bill for those services. So we recognize an expenditure, but we also recognize an offsetting revenue, just to make sure that we've at least accounted for those costs in the different departments. Number 7, this is for Riverwalk, where we have committed to assist with putting in deposit reserves, but yet we will get them back at the completion of the project. One we'll get back right about the time that we complete the project, and then the other one's about 5 years from now. And you will see this also as part of the fiscal year 2020 budget, because we're really not quite sure. The timing could be before the end of this fiscal year, but most likely it will be in fiscal year 2020, and we don't want to have to come back for another budget opening so quickly. So it'll be duplicated, but just keep in mind that we're going to expend it only one time. So, and number 8 is for our housing program. This actually goes along with our EDAs and RDAs, in that we had additional revenues come in there, and 2 of our EDAs have to transfer 20% of the revenues to the housing fund. And because the EDA's revenues came in higher, that 20% transfer is a little bit higher. And so that is what item number 8 is. And we're anticipating about 23,000 more going in at that point. And then there shouldn't be 2 more items on your sheet. If there is, they're going to be discussed in the RDA agenda. And that is all I have.
Thank you, Dee. Questions?
Dan, I just wanted to ask, when we talk about 20% to the housing fund, we talking about accessible housing, affordable housing?
It is
So-
part of our affordable housing
Right.
fund that we've been able to do some of our projects like Riverwalk, the Switch Point, some of our projects like that.
Just want the public to know that the city is making efforts to satisfy those needs, and they're recognized,
Yeah.
Mayor. It's an ongoing process.
Absolutely. Mhm.
And also, I have another question.
You're okay.
We talked about the airport, and because of the recognition of all the repairs and so forth that are being done out there, does this budget include the maintenance and repairs? Because Adam, we talked about this a little bit, that the maintenance is a big part of this. And so on the budget, as far as additional positions, we had a part-time position being made a full-time position. We had a second request for another full-time position. And how did that work out? And why are we doing what we're doing under the circumstances of the conditions that we've been presented with at the airport?
Yeah, so this is more
This is budget opening
connected
for-
to the next item, item
Okay.
number 3. If you want, Mayor, I can hold that for that
Yeah,
discussion.
let's let him respond to that, because this is still the opening for this fiscal year.
Okay.
I think that the other one would be best appropriate to talk about with the next fiscal year budget.
Okay.
But thank you. Dee, any
Okay.
other questions, council? Okay, appreciate how you lay this out. It actually is easy to understand. We appreciate that. Council, if you don't have any other questions, then I will open a public hearing for anyone who may have come to discuss or offer input on this issue, which is regarding the amendments as have been laid out for the fiscal year 2018-19 budget. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for any discussion or for your action.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the resolution approving the amendments to the fiscal year budget 2018-19.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy with the second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, starting with Ed, say aye.
Aye?
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, council. Thank you, Dee, and everyone else, department heads that got their information in. Okay, item 3. Now, I guess this one is now we're getting to
Yes.
the next fiscal year.
This is our next fiscal year that will start on July 1st. And this is our second public hearing that we've had regarding the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget. We're only required to have one. We like to have two, just to make sure that we give our citizens the opportunity to come before you and have any questions or concerns. As I've mentioned previously, this budget is, right now, the recommended budget in total is $350,506,000 and some change. The general fund budget is $77,126,000 and change. We are not proposing a property tax increase, and actually our levy went down a little bit, almost 8.7%. The property tax, as we talked about at our last city council meeting, is revenue neutral. So as our citizens' value may go up, our levy rate will go down to make sure that we get the same amount of revenue from our current citizens. And the only additional revenue that we get from property taxes from new growth, from those new citizens that are moving in, building houses, and businesses as well. Otherwise, we do have some proposed fee increases. We will talk about those at item number 7 on the agenda. And I'm not sure if you want me to go into any other information. I know we've hit this pretty hard on that general information. We do have some items that we've talked about in the work meetings that we've had, and you should have that list in front of you. I apologize, it's a little small. That's why I've got my glasses on.
Me too. It's okay.
Okay. So I'm just going to review each of those and just give you a quick recap as to how they've come about. Item number 1 is parks planning, is the community garden relocation from the Tonnequint. They were not able to get through that project. There's some timing issues there with some of the fencing and some of the work that needs to be done. That is in this current year budget. It's for $75,700. So all we're doing is rolling that forward to the fiscal year 2020 budget. Item number 2 is we've talked as management and proposed to you that we add an administrative professional number 2 position to our community, to our Public Works Department to assist Cameron Cutler and the engineering guys with keeping everything organized and filed and so forth because of their workload that they have. That's $60,474. And that includes all salaries, all benefits, and so forth. The next one is Red Hills Clubhouse. As you know, that's under construction right now. They're not going to quite be finished by the time we get to June 30th. And so it is the first part of July that they'll be done, but that will roll over some of our expenditures into next year. And I've rounded that up to $240,000. And then the next item down, number 4, is for our art museum. In this current year budget, they have $13,500 allocated to replace the sign in front of the Pioneer Center for the Arts building. And they've ran into some permitting issues based upon the property and different things of that nature. And so they're asking that we roll that forward, $13,500 to fiscal year 2020 budget. And then we've also are going to increase the Marin City Council Sundry account. One of the programs that we'd like to add to that is a Suicide Prevention Coalition to assist in funding that program through the Southwest Mental Health. And then just a little bit more for other projects that may come your way, and to give you a little bit of discretion on projects that come your way and not have to come back for a budget opening. And that's $40,000. So the total changes to the general fund budget would be $429,674. And then the other items are non-general fund. First being the economic incentive agreement for SkyWest that you approved a few councils ago, and that is for $225,000, and that's our 50% share that we're splitting with Washington County. And then we also have the Public Works Capital Project Fund to do a sidewalk connection from the new 400 South underpass over to River Road. There's not a contiguous sidewalk that comes out of that underpass, and we want to make sure our pedestrians can get to River Road and down to or up to the lights to cross safely. And then the other one is Vernon Wortham Park, the pickleball courts reconstruction and lighting, and this was presented in the recommended budget. However, we wanted to fine-tune those numbers. We visited with you during our work meeting and made sure we had a clear understanding of the direction that you wanted to go with that, and that is $476,500. The next item is the Black Hill View Park, and to relocate or renovate that playground, and that is for $250,000. And then the next item is to carry over Tonopah Cemetery expansion project for $138,000, and that again is in this year's budget, and we're just asking to roll it forward. We're a little bit delayed of some of the commercial development out there at Tonopah Cemetery. We had to wait till they got their project done before we could move forward with this one. The next one is the Sand Hollow Aquatic Center dome replacement, just moving a little bit of that money forward to next year for $23,500. And actually in the recommended budget, we had moved forward most of the money that was in this year's budget. That project is a little bit delayed. The next item is an Andrus Home Rehab for $50,000. We thought we were going to get that portion done this year, and again are asking to move it forward. And the last but not least, again, is the one I mentioned in the budget openings, is the reserve deposits for Riverwalk Affordable Housing. And again, it may be a timing issue whether it happens in the next 10 days or after that. And so we just want to have it in both budgets to cover ourselves, but we'll only expend that once. So the total for the non-general fund budgets is $1,953,000, which would bring your total adjustments for the final budget to $2,382,674. And I think that's probably all I have to say at the moment.
Thank you. I mean, I think it's important to try to get everything as clear as we can, and we've talked for months as a mayor and council, city manager, and department heads, and But any questions about these or anything else related to the budget, and we'll have Adam answer that one question you already asked.
I'd just like to comment, Mayor, too, that on that underpass from the university going over there towards Harmon's, that we have a lot of traffic issues. And we also have 3 student housing units that are located on the east side of the freeway that the students will be able to access. And this will relieve a lot of the vehicle traffic and bicycle traffic on 700 South and even 100 East. So it's really a big impact on what it's going to have for not only the citizens, but for the college students as well.
Correct.
Yep, exactly, and that's, again, this is just a portion of that, but it's actually a 4-way project with UDOT paying for half or a little more than half, and the city paying for roughly a quarter, the university paying for a quarter, and the Metropolitan Planning Organization, as you remember, DTEC paying for about $200,000, as I recall. So everyone participating to try to make that happen.
Right.
And this is a very long, detailed process, the budget. I mean, $350 million we take very serious, and it's tax dollars. If somebody just, the layperson was looking and saying sundry charges for the mayor and city council, it sounds like sunscreen and, I don't know, a beach towel to me. But that $40,000 will go to good use to help. Teresa Willie runs the Suicide Prevention Coalition at Southwest Behavioral Health. It's extremely important in our county. And I'm glad we're setting that money aside for that particular
Thank you, Michelle.
coalition.
Michelle is part of that, and I'm part of that in terms of some committees that we sit on in our police department, the hospital, many other groups. We're really trying, and I think you'll see much more awareness and efforts made in the suicide prevention side of things here in the next year or so. And this position, they've asked the cities, not just us, but the other cities and the county to participate in helping to fund this position. We anticipate, council, that that'll be for at least 5 years. You know, it might be beyond that, but we'll have an opportunity, of course, each year to consider it. But I would advocate, as Michelle has, that we ought to include that. We've done some similar things as it relates to, you know, the Youth Crisis Center, the Doctors Volunteer Clinic, places where we feel like we have a role in helping, and that it actually probably saves us in other ways, you know, either saves us resource or helps prevent, you know, spending further resource in terms of police time or other. And so and of course there's just the value to the community. So it's not a lot of money when you put it up against $350 million, but it all adds up.
Well, and we're not going to Cancun, so.
We're not going to Cancun?
No.
Or the Dominican.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're not getting a police helicopter, although the chief would love to have one. I know you feel bad, chief, but try again next year. No,
But I think people need to know that, you know, we really, we go over this. We have several meetings, and we call it a budget retreat. Retreats are supposed to be like lots of fun.
It's a cruel joke to call it a retreat.
It is a really cruel. And it's all day. I mean, we really dig into this. So when we're here and we pass the budget, it's not just, oh, we have the budget today, we're going to pass it. It's a long process.
Yeah, I can vouch for that it's a long process, and it's
yes,
not
you can,
simple.
and we couldn't do it without you.
Yeah, and the department heads and their management staff are great. I mean, they're putting in the hours, they're dissecting, coming up with the best way to use our citizens' funds at the highest and best use. And not all projects do get approved. We don't have the money to do everything, but they work really hard at getting it right. And there are a lot of hours that go into this, and a lot of good decision-making involved in that process. And we appreciate your time and your support of going through the work meetings and the retreat and the strategy session with us, and giving us your feedback and constructive ideas of how we can accomplish what we'd like to accomplish for our citizens. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other questions or comments, council?
I'll hold one that I have till I hear from Adam.
Yeah, let's hear from Adam then on that airport-related item.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the short answer is that it just comes down to resources. What can we afford? You know, the very first number that we try to identify as we go through the budget process is what do we anticipate our revenues are going to be for the following year? And we're not the federal government. We can't deficit spend. So we have to know what our revenue is going to be because that's what we have to work with, and that's it. And so then we ask our department heads, all of our departments, to get with their staff and to propose a budget. What do they feel they need for the upcoming year? Personnel, resources, materials, all of those different items. And so each one comes back and we identify, okay, what's our gap? Basically, how much do we have to cut out of those departmental requests to get down to the amount of revenue that we anticipate? In the case of this operations position or the maintenance position, excuse me, at the airport, that was one of several that was submitted as part of the Public Works budget. So the process that we go through is we sit down with the department head, we try to prioritize all of those, and then it really becomes this this system where we're just trying to figure out, okay, with only so many resources, where do we put them? And that was a position among many others that we just simply cannot fund. It did make the cut this year, not in the recommended budget. Of course, that's the great thing about being an elected official is this is your budget. This is a policy document. And as a group, you can say, hey, we want more resources put over here and fewer resources put over there. And so we're certainly open to staff to make whatever adjustments or modifications that you would feel are necessary. At this point, that position in particular didn't make what we felt was the final cut. But
Well, I appreciate your comments on that because it is informative for the general public to understand, especially with what's going on at the airport. And that would lead me to, I see Cameron Cutler out there who oversees Public Works, but he also oversees the airport. And one of the issues that came up because of the big cracks that we had in the runway and the water that seepage got into the soils, that's being prevented and taken care of. But I wanted to address the issue of Cameron chip sealing. I know that we do all the city streets. We have to have certain machinery and equipment to do that annually. Did we have any need or any request for the airport that they had to have their own machine out there so they could do more frequent repairs and maintenance? And would you comment on that, please?
No, they didn't. They didn't have any additional repairs. I mean, we did request a couple of full-time employees go from one part-time to 2 full-time, and we did get the 1 full-time. And so we are increasing personnel at the airport because of the additional flights and things. But regarding pavement management, no, they never did request any equipment or anything like that. Or for our pavement management at the city, we did increase it a little bit this year compared to last year.
We timely fill up those cracks because some of them look pretty wide and big. So on a regular maintenance schedule, that runway is looked after and safety is the primary on that.
Yes, in fact, when you talk about the air side, the runway part of it, that goes through the capital improvement project at the airport and the maintenance plan, and that actually is FAA participated in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cameron.
I'll just add to that in that we do have a new paver in our budget for our streets department, and our departments are great to work together, and our streets department will often go up and help the airport. That's one of the projects that you've seen with the new parking lot expansion and the rental car parking lot. So it's not that the airport itself needs a paving machine or all our other departments are really great to go up and help out where there's need. And if it's expressed, then they're great to work together. So we do have that new paver in the budget, and we've got some great crews that could go up there.
That's what I was thinking about, and I know that the public likes to know that we do have this interaction when working from one department to another. And Mayor mentioned spending. Spending is so crucial that we're trying to find ways to keep the expenses down and still have the level of proficiency and efficiency that we need.
Yeah. So I'll just add that the new budget will be available on our website, not immediately. I'll have to get some of these changes in there. We're required by the state of Utah to have it completed and submitted to the state of Utah within 30 days of the adoption date, which is today. And so definitely will be on at some point within that 30 days. just an FYI on that.
Thank you, Deanna. Again, the total budget was about $350 million.
Right.
That includes all of our, what we call enterprise funds, as well as our general funds. Enterprise funds, such as the Energy Services
Right.
Department, water, wastewater.
Yeah, they account for about 47% of our total budget. Our general fund's about 22%, and then we've got other projects that fill in the gaps. But, yeah, our enterprise funds are almost half of our total budget.
And typically, the enterprise funds would be paid for by rates,
By
correct?
user fees.
User fees.
For,
Yep.
So what they consume, they pay for.
Yep.
And as you said, power, water, sewer, and garbage, those types of fees.
Correct. Very good. Any other questions or comments, council, before I open the public hearing, or anything else you have, Dee?
That's it.
It's amazing. Thank you. Feels like, let's see, this is June 20, is it 20th? 20th. When did you start working on this new fiscal year budget? I mean, I know we started talking in December.
Right. We, pre-planning probably as far back as October, November, of planning out, scheduling, sending out memos and calendars to everyone, advising them as to when we were going to do the budget. And, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts that need to come together, so.
Well, thank you. Thank you, and Chad and everyone else that's worked so hard on this. And, you know, I think you ought to get to know your husband again, you know. His name's Mark, you know. If you need to be reintroduced, let us know. All right, then I will open the public hearing for anyone who may have come to offer input on this, our last public hearing for the fiscal year budget for 2019-2020. We've exhausted you. Then I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for your action.
Mayor, I will make a motion to approve a resolution to formally adopt the final fiscal year 2019-2020 budget.
Second.
We have a motion by Michelle and a second by Ed. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Betty this time, say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. All right. We just plan to spend $350 million. How do you feel? Okay. 4.
Item 4, Shirlane, you want to come on up?
Hi. So we spent a little money, now we're going to make a little money, maybe. So we are here to have some public comment about the sale of a piece of real property that's owned by the city. This is for City Ordinance 113-1, and it is a significant parcel, which means it has a value over $500,000. This is just east of the Dixie Center on the south side at about 120 East Crosby Way, and it's 1.751 acres. The use is for a restaurant, non-fast food restaurant, and the sale of the property is proposed to Quality Development. Is there any other information you'd like to know?
Council, you're aware of this parcel?
Non-fast food, right?
Non-fast food. This is gonna, you know, there's another one that's already been sold previously that's adjacent to this, so we should be looking at, two, nice restaurant type of opportunities over time, right there by the Hyatt and the Holiday Inn on Crosby Way. Good location. As we've talked about this in closed session because of the nature, because of this being a real estate potential sale. So now, unless you have any questions, the point of this is to take public comment regarding this sale of significant parcel, as Shirlane mentioned. If you don't have any comments, thank you, Shirlane. I'll open really essentially a public hearing to take any public comment at this time on this item. Seeing none, then
Crickets.
we'll close it.
Yeah.
And I don't think we need to take any motion at this time. Yep, we're just required to do this because the as Shirlene said, the amount involved. So, good. I think that means we'll proceed.
You know, Mayor, I'd just like to comment on how much we appreciate the time that Adam spent on this particular project and yourself in overseeing that, because that's a big deal. Sell a piece of property like that at that location, and that's going to have an impact on the city. So thank you very much for that.
Well, it's a team effort. Legal,
Shirlene,
economic
legal.
development, everybody's been pulling on this one.
Good to have it done. I think it'll be great. Okay, Adam.
So then item number 5 is related to that. This is the agreement for the sale of the property that we've just taken public comment on for the disposal. If there are any additional questions on this, we've kind of gotten the overview there. Staff would recommend approval of the agreement.
I'll go ahead, Mayor, if you're ready.
Yep. If
Make
there
a
are no
mo-
questions, yep.
Any questions?
Go ahead.
Motion to approve the agreement for the sale of the property at 120 East Crosby Way. Do I need to give the amounts?
Yes.
For approximately 1.751 acres for where is that at? 1,070,000, I know that's what it is.
1,075,000.
There you go, 1,075,000.
Second.
I have a motion by Jimmy and a second by Michelle. Any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, that motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Shirlene, and we'll take their check. All right,
Yes, we will.
okay.
Mayor and Council, next up is go ahead.
She can go home and introduce herself to her husband as well.
She's been busy too.
Very true. Next up is a discussion on CDBG funding. We'll have Jenna present that to us.
I have more money for you. Are your heads swimming?
I think we'll spend this pretty fast.
Okay, so as outlined last month, we're getting about $600,000 from HUD, and we anticipate another $60,000 in program income, giving us about $668,000 for our CDBG. So that's split into 3 different categories. The administration category is limited to 20% of the budget. Then we have public facilities and infrastructure and public services limited to 15% of the overall budget. So for the public facilities and infrastructure, we have nonprofit partners. These 4 nonprofits have requested about $175,000. These would go to things like updating their facilities. SwitchPoint is asking for a security system, to upgrade their toilets and lighting and showers. So that's what these type of projects would have.
Does that sound good, Jimmy? You're on the board of SwitchPoint.
Very needed.
Yes. And then we also have some internal projects for public facilities. We'd like to continue the cast iron project downtown with our sewer and water department. And then we'd like to start looking at the roadways downtown. The 650 South, Turn Community Services has a house on 650 South. And the way the pavement there is a tripping hazard for their clients. So we're going to look at that, as well as some transit shelters downtown, get our bus stops some shelter for the more popular stations.
Those are highly needed as you look out in the heat right now. That's important. I think we need to keep doing those.
And then for public services, this would again be our nonprofit partners, about $89,000. This is for their staffing costs, operating costs, or leases, things to just help them keep going and serving our community. And that's it.
Thank you for laying that out so clearly and having that available for people to see. Questions, council, on this? I don't believe, we don't need a public hearing for this, do we? So this is just to consider. So if you don't have any questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the funding for these various nonprofit organizations that further the national objectives of the Community Development Block Grant Program.
Second.
Motion by Betty with a second by Jimmy. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 7 has to do with our budget and a few fees that are being proposed to change, and so Chad is going to give us the overview on this item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a few fees here. We'll start off with the golf course of increasing their 9-hole round of golf $1, and that's for all the golf courses. The Energy has done a cost coverage analysis and has come up with the understanding that we are undercharging, and so for the next 5 years we will raise the monthly charge by $1. So instead of $15.65 like it is this fiscal year, it'll go to $16.65 in fiscal year 20. And then the water is increasing their rates by 10 cents per 1,000 gallons to all rates, not including the base charge.
And that's the pass-through from the district.
Correct.
So we buy much of our water, not all of it, from the Washington County Water Conservancy District. This is them passing along that to us at the wholesale rate, essentially. And they will continue to do that every year for probably at least the next 8 years.
Okay, right. And then the last set of fees to increase is from the Recreation Department in the Nature Center. The after-school elementary on-site is increasing from 15 to 25. The after-school intermediate off-site is increasing the archery from 20 to 25, the golf 25 to 30. The Board and Busters is increasing from 26 to 30. The CSI Little Detective Camp is increasing 35 to 38. And Safety Town is increasing 35 to 38. And that's due to the instructor rates increasing their fees to us.
So that golf increases, that's for 9 holes?
Yes, each 9-hole, and that's with the card as well.
Very good. Any questions so far?
Can't wait till my dad calls to complain about that one.
It's very modest.
It is very modest.
I could provide you with a very significant justification if you'd like to hear it.
I am just going to give him your phone number. Give him his phone number.
Send them to me.
Anything else, Chad,
That was it.
for now? Questions, council? Ready for a motion then?
Motion to approve the ordinance amending and adopting certain fees for various services and recreational activities. Second.
Motion by Michelle with a second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Ed this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, council. Item 8, I believe.
Yes, item 8. Good evening.
Good evening.
So for item number 8, let me get my PowerPoint started here. This is to consider an ordinance changing a zone from a PDR Plan Development Residential to PDC Plan Development Commercial to be used for RV storage and on approximately 6 acres, generally located at 415 South Dixie Drive. This is the Sunbrook Ranch location. Here's an overall area just showing you what parcel we're talking about to include into this plan development commercial is this back portion. Currently, we are all commercial on the general plan, and this back portion is a PDR. If you remember a few months ago, or probably 6 months ago, we did have a proposal for some residential townhomes, but that did fall through, so we're going another direction on this property. Here's the site plan, overall site plan, including the front and back parcel. And this is what it will look like in the location. We do have residential on 2 sides with Mathis Park in the rear. Now going over the site plan, this is the existing entrance, and this will be changed up in this location a little bit to get back to this rear parcel. The 2 parcels are different ownerships. So we're treating them as two separate parcels, not one large one. The rear parcel, they are proposing to put in 177 RV storage spaces with 3 of the stalls, or 3 of the rows being covered. And then in the front, they would also, and this is part of the first part of the front parcel, which is a PDC right now, they would like to add, the applicant would like to add 39 covered RV spaces to this front parcel. And then also there will be 3 storage units added to the rear parcel. And then as far as parking goes, there are specific parking regulations for this development, and they do meet the requirement, as well as all of the other plan development requirements. This is just a photo showing what the storage units will look like. It actually will just be one, not a whole row, one in each of those spots. The covered parking for the RV storage will look like this. This is taken out at Sunbrook. Just another shot of that. This is the existing drive aisle. This will be moved over to this location. This is looking back at the property. This is looking forward towards Dixie Drive. So we do have a few of these larger trees that will be removed because the drive aisle will be moved over to this location. And then this is looking back at that rear parcel. The applicant, staff is requesting that this back fence here, this is looking from Mathis Park into the parcel. Staff is requesting that this back fence be walled in, putting in a privacy fence to separate it from the park. Picture just of the landscaping on the existing frontage. This shot just shows some of the walls. They are required to have a 6-foot wall. Some of these are a little bit shorter, so those will be addressed, and there's some chain link sections. This is looking on the north side against the existing residential. These are the approved uses that are already existing. There's no proposed changes to these. This is their material board. There's an updated one here. The color is changed from this brown color to that green color. Those storage units will be behind that main structure, so they really won't be seen by the public right of way. There was quite a few staff recommendations in your packet. I just want to highlight the 6-foot block wall that I talked about, and also that the front landscaping staff is requesting that it matches the, in the new portion, that it matches the existing. There is a condition here that staff has added since the Planning Commission meeting, and that is that southeast parking lot be repaved. It's not in very good condition, but be repaved at the time that they put in the new drive aisle. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of this. They did make a few changes. One, that the units will not exceed 12 feet in height. And then they did add 16 and 17. The Planning Commission did not like the idea of having covered RV spaces in the front along Dixie Drive. And so they recommended that they not be covered. And then also for a materials board, which the applicant has provided. Other than that, if you have any questions on any of the conditions or anything else, I'd be happy to help you.
Run by me again that uncovered out by Dixie Drive.
This area right here, the 39 new, right now it's just dirt, and the applicant would like to put in 39 covered RV storage spaces. The Planning Commission did not, they recommended approval of everything, but they did not want this area to be covered.
Are you talking about the picture that shows what I would consider regular storage units?
No, when I'm talking, oops.
These are RV covered or not?
Yeah, it's just
parking
here.
Spots. It's like
it
that.
would be just like this.
Which I'm trying to figure out.
Why?
They're recommending that, that the storage spaces stay, but the cover is removed, and the applicant would like to have those covered.
Why would you not in this heat?
Well, they felt the proximity to the neighborhood that's over here, to the housing. There is a 30-foot, I should mention, there's a 30-foot, I think I had a picture of it in here, storm drain easement here. Typically, they would have to landscape this, however, they are not going to be able to put much landscaping in here because of this, the
Storm drain.
storm drain is just, it's too close to the surface that would be disturbed.
Carol, those ones that the planning commission said they wanted uncovered, what's the distance from there to the wall where those other homes are? Do you have that?
Let's see, let me go back to the site plan. There we go. It'll be about the same distance it is on the other side, about 30 feet.
How many?
30.
From the wall?
From the
Is that what you're
wall to the edge of, yes, the parking area. There might be a little bit more.
I'm trying to remember, are there currently covered RV storage on the other side?
On
along the
this
other
side,
wall?
no.
Okay.
No, they're not covered. They do have some covered spaces. The one that's
Right.
right up against Dixie, and then there's another one here. But the ones right up against these houses are not covered.
Was the thought that it would be visible from the neighbor's yard, or?
Yeah, they felt it was just overpowering, the height of them. They will be 19 feet high.
Due to the complications of the landscaping there, right, that's where the storm sewer is. I mean, is there an ability to do trees there? Was that part of the plan? Some kind of, softening or not?
The trees that are at this location will remain, but at this location, no, they wouldn't be able to put in trees.
Because of the storm sewer?
Yes, yes.
Carol,
That would be good.
you've touched quite a bit on the RV parking, but as I drove by there the other day on the south side, and you can see it in some of your pictures, you have a lot of U-Haul vehicles parked there, and they're not
Yes.
on pavement, they're on the dirt. And
Yes.
I'm concerned for those residents that are real close to it, that they don't want to have that dust and dirt, and they
Right.
need to comply with having paved parking for those U-Haul vehicles as well.
Well, if this is approved for the RV storage, the U-Hauls will be removed.
They will be gone?
From that location, yes. I'm not sure. If they plan on keeping the U-Haul business, I don't know where they're going to be putting the vehicles, but they won't be there at that location. And that would all be paved for the RV storage.
I'm just curious, I think what council's been asking as well, but I'm curious, how does the staff feel about 30 feet distance? Seems like plenty of space in terms of having that covered. In some ways, that feels like it'd be a better, more consistent, look from the neighborhood rather than ups and downs and different, air conditioning units and so forth on top of RVs. So I don't know, I kind of wonder about that decision by the Planning Commission. Wonder what staff thinks. Were you inclined to recommend or?
Yeah, when this was first presented, Planning Commission, they did have also a worry about there being lights up in this covered structures. They will not be putting lights in those. We would not allow that because those would be shining down on the properties. But
I like that answer.
Yeah.
Because we allowed it on Monster Storage over on Pioneer, and it's not good.
Yeah, for sure in this location, staff felt that would mitigate the issue. This location, it's a tough one. This front area has always been a commercial development before the houses came in. However, there were
Joe used to park there every day.
There were not RV storage spots there though in the past. As far as how staff feels, I believe it could go either way, whichever you feel. I have not had any comments from the public, and so I can't sway either way on that.
Okay.
Well, you got a lot of oleander plants there, but it's not agriculture, so that they're pretty.
Should be okay.
And they're able
Jimmy
to
doesn't like
sustain
them.
there, so Jimmy will have to.
Is there a wall or a fence along Dixie in front of that RV storage?
Yeah, there is. get to, I think you can see it.
Will be.
There will be, I mean.
The thing with the wall is because the elevation, the wall looks pretty short compared to the RVs, and it's down from Dixie. It kind of sinks down in.
Oh,
so
that's right. It does. Quite a dramatic drop.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit different. And I think, yeah, like I said, this wall they'd have to adjust the heights on these walls because some of them are quite low, and the chain link would have to go. Yeah, you can see it steps down here. They do have some vegetation on this other side, though, on the north side, that they wouldn't be able to have on the south side.
So this list of Sunbrook storage approved uses, it's storage uses, but that covers quite a gamut of
Yes.
of things that can be in there.
Yes. And that's, most of those uses are for the large building.
Anything else that you have, Carol?
And I believe the applicant is here, and he might want to make
Yeah.
some comments. But yeah, if you have any other questions for
Okay.
me.
Any questions for Carol? Okay, thank you. Yeah, I wouldn't mind hearing from the applicant for a minute if there's anything they'd like to say, especially in terms of what they would prefer. I know what their application was for, but if, in terms of this specific issue on the covered versus non-covered. 12.
Thanks, Carol, and commissioners and council members, and Mr. Mayor. It's nice to be with you tonight on the special night that you approved your budget. That's an amazing
Big night,
feat.
huh?
Yeah, pretty special. I am grateful for what the Planning Commission has done, but there are several areas that I disagree with on their report to you. And number one is that covered parking has always been the mainstay of what we want to do in Phase 1. Phase 1 is the little 1 acre parcel up in the front. I call Phase 1 next to Dixie Drive, and Phase 2 the 6 acres and back. I missed one of the meetings. I missed an airplane, got canceled on me. Another one, I was in the hospital. But all of our drawings up to that date showed covered parking on those 39 RV stalls. And that's basic, and we don't want to remove that from the request. You'll recall how bad our property looked just a year or two ago, and when we were approved to improve the front, did the asphalt and the covered parking and the landscaping. I can't tell you the number of people that have come by and said, gee, thanks for improving the area. These aren't people that rent from us. These are just...
It's looking much better.
People just driving down the road. And so, as you know, we've struggled for years with this white elephant, trying to make it something that's desirable and, fits into the community. There is a real need here that it's underlying, and I think you people probably recognize, but most of the communities up in the northwest part of town, none of those PUD kind of communities allow RV parking or boat storage in the driveway. And so we do have a lot of people who are from the local area, and by and large, most of them are. We've lost 3 or 4 people who have gone out to Sun River, to the new one out there, and 3 of them have come back. So we've lost net 1 to their project. In other words, people want to have that closer to the home than they do by the freeway. That means more to them than being down by the freeway. So anyway, we would like covered parking on that front parcel. And I didn't see, I wasn't at those meetings, so it's hard for me to represent, but I don't think there was real adamant concern about there being covered units in front. So a little bit of it was my mistake, our mistake. The engineer's overlay wasn't bright enough that they could see it. And it was always intended to have covered parking. Secondly, the height of that covered parking is an issue, and that if that's what was addressed in their recommendation, our covered parking that's there now, those stalls are 19 foot tall. And an average RV, not average, but the large expensive ones, 150, 250,000, they're 14.5 foot tall. And if they have an AC unit on top of them, and you got to have a little clearance, and then you have 2 foot for your roof system, you're up to 18.5 feet. Now, admittedly, there are smaller units that aren't quite that tall, and I'd be okay limiting the height of units next to the residential area, pulling that down to 17, and then let the ones coming down the main road entry be the full 19-foot tall. And to answer your question about landscaping, we would continue that same block wall along Dixie Drive and turn it in slightly, and then, like the other side of the road, and then it would turn into the gate, the ornamental iron fencing that we run down there. So those two items are pretty important to us. There's an additional item that's kind of buried in there, and it talks about no cross parking between the two parcels. And Carol mentioned that these are owned by different owners. My company owns one of them, and there's another company that owns the rear parcel that we would manage for them. I have no problem limiting the access between the two if there's ever a sale in the future. I think they may be worried about them just being totally open all the time. I don't know why. I don't know what problems that brings up. But if there's an illegal issue to us having total cross-access agreement, I would be willing to put something in a deed, some kind of a deed restriction, saying that if either of the properties was sold to a third party, then those cross-parking, cross-access deals would be dropped in lieu of, and there would always be the original 50-foot easement that would be the main access. But we didn't intend to put a fence line between the two properties at this point. We see no reason to do it, no legitimate reason, and we would ask that be. I'm willing to do the deed restriction if that's necessary.
Sean, can you comment on that a little bit? Help us understand
I'm
that.
trying to catch the eye of one of the planners. Are we requiring to put a fence up between the two properties? Yeah, I didn't think so. But, so where we have two different, even though, Marv, you have both of them, but they're in different names.
Correct.
We still require that. It's too hard for us.
You require what?
The cross-access agreement.
Okay.
It's too difficult for us to monitor when those sales might take place. It might even be a foreclosure where the back part's mortgaged, and they foreclose on that property, and we don't get notice of that, and we don't find out until someone comes in later and wants to do something. So this is just standard practice. It doesn't put any burden on you. And certainly if you combine those parcels, put them in the same name, then the easement goes away. It just merges with the title. So that's something we've always asked for, even when they were going to develop the back piece. But we're not requiring a fence line there. So
What are you asking for?
well, you said that you said that we were requiring a fence, and you had no intention of putting up the fence between the two properties, two parcels, and I'm saying yes. We agree. You don't have to have a fence up there, but you do need to cross-access easements across those properties.
Well, I agree, but was that the intention, John? Yeah. Okay. Okay, I agree with that. We're fine with that, to have the cross-access agreement, and we would be fine with that. So just primarily two issues, the height of the carports and to have carports up on that front lot. Pretty important to us. If we looked at this for a long time, you know, the width and the length of this front lot was kind of mandated to us by this. When the city came in and redid Dixie Drive, they wanted to align it with the subdivision across the street. So our width is narrow, and we're kind of forced into that. And so we looked at different things. If we went to a building, it would be 2 stories high, you know. And then we do have a little blue clay on the site, and the carports mitigates that a long way. For instance, we go 2 foot deeper on our post footings rather than pouring full foundations. It makes a huge difference. Otherwise, it wouldn't be financially feasible.
When you talked about the height going from 19 to 17, is there a clear place, point where you could delineate where that would change if we were to propose that?
Well, I suggested there's 2 lines of carports. One would be right next to our driveway. The other backs up directly to the subdivision in back of us. So my suggestion is that those ones right across the subdivision go to 17 foot.
Mayor?
I like that.
And the others? The others you would keep at 19?
19.
I like that.
Yeah, I do too.
Mayor, a point of clarification on the staff recommendations on this page. It says that the 3 storage units will not exceed 14 feet in height. And on the next page, the Planning Commission recommendation and additional conditions said the 3 proposed storage units will not exceed 12 feet in height. And then we're talking about some of these units that are quite larger than that. Where are we on that?
Yeah, we're really talking about two separate projects here.
That height, that 14 feet, that was for these 3
storage units.
Storage
in the
units.
back.
Whoa.
That's the units, okay.
These 3.
Not
And
the
that-
RV.
Yeah,
storage.
not the
Okay.
RV, yeah, and 12 feet is actually what staff should have recommended to begin with.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's clear.
And actually, I would disagree with that height, too. The height of our building in the back is like 26, 28 feet. You go from 26 down to 12 feet is kind of ridiculous. The property owners on both sides of us were faced with probably 24 foot with the development the Gar brothers brought in here last year. So that would have been with, what, 12 feet away from the property line, having a 20-some-odd, 24-foot building. I'm suggesting that the 19-foot would be appropriate, and on even these 3 buildings we're talking about, the 19 should be the top limit, and in some cases we could be less than that. The other thing I'd like to point out is regarding the front property, where we have that 30-foot area between us and the carports. It's tough to landscape there. We could put rocks on it and some little plants. If we can find some kind of tree that won't, that's acceptable to the city, that won't get roots in the drain, we don't mind putting in some smaller gauge kind of tree or something that might help mitigate that too. So, thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mark.
I have another question.
Yeah.
So now you're saying that you'd rather have 19 feet on the small storage sheds instead of 14?
No. Small storage sheds would still be limited to the 12 or 14 or what's in
Okay.
it. The roll-up sheds.
Okay.
There's no reason to have those taller.
Okay,
But
thank you.
the 3 large buildings would be capped out at 19, as would the carports along the driveway coming in.
Hey,
Clear.
Marv, let me ask you too, on your color charts, I see some bright colors, the yellow and so forth. Did you check with the neighbors, or have they had any input as far as the brightness of some of these colors you're going to use?
The
Have you
brightness of the colors?
Yeah, I noticed the one that really stands out, and mine is the yellow doors. Have you settled on the colors?
We prefer the dark maroon or the dark green, but I would point out with 6-foot block walls around the property and trees.
I'm not going to
I
see
don't know-
much.
Okay.
I don't know who's ever going to look over
So
that.
you're still going to go with that subdued,
Yeah, we've got to come back on the rear property. We have to come back in and deal with the planning commission to identify exactly where those lower storage roll-ups will be versus the larger carports. We'd like to get going on the front piece a month or 2 ago. So we'd like, if there's a way we can't get everything approved, if we can get going on the front piece, we'd like to get that finished as soon as possible.
Thank you, Marv.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Carol, John, did you have something you looked, and maybe just some clarification on what Marv's just said?
Yeah, a couple items. He has these 2 storage units, the self units. Those ones, the recommendation was 12 feet because the ordinance limits it to 12 feet. That's why we had that recommendation. In regards to these being covered, I think the issue is the bulking and the massing of the actual RV, and that already exists just by parking them there. And so having those reduced, the impact's already there. I think the only concern would be just to mitigate the lighting to ensure that it's not spilling or directed towards the residential here. We can take a look at some different vegetation options as staff and see if there's anything that can be planted in that area that's not going to impact that storage, or not the storage, but the storm drain located there. Just real quick, he'd mentioned the separation of the fence. The recommendation was a wall in the back located here between Mathis Park and also his facility, and so the park there's some obstruction there, and so I just wanted to clarify. That's what staff was talking about, was the separation between the park and his facility in that solid block wall.
So the 12-foot is the ordinance. That's
12
why
foot
that's-
is the ordinance. That's why that was the recommendation for the self-storage units. Yep.
Okay. And so again, just with this map up there, or this, where would the 17-foot that were just proposed, car, or,
Right there.
yeah, right
Right here.
there, and where would the 19s be?
With the 19 would be here.
Across.
And then these three locations here. These ones here are all uncovered.
We on the same page?
And
Clarify, we have not identified the regular roll-up storage areas. And so what we wanted to do was to use some of those roll-up storage areas, maybe in place of the taller RV structure. So we thought we get the zoning, we can come back into the planning commission and work that out. And what the demand is, and all those things. That's why I said we won't get phase one right away.
Okay. These three are identified on the plan as being the self-storage ones. These three boxes here, here, and here. So that's what we're looking at.
But the other three long rectangles, those are
RV
parking.
currently.
so if that were to change, they'd have to come back.
You have to come back. We'd consider that a significant change and bring it back to Plan Commission City Council.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions, council? Sean? Any other clarification?
I'm having John on standby just in case there's a need to help with the motion.
I think there will be. Yeah,
Imagine
because
that.
it's just, it is kind of complicated. Anything else, council, in terms of planning commission recommendations and additional conditions that you have questions on?
Sorry, that was me.
Jimmy, you good with making that motion, aren't you?
Yeah. Are we ready?
Yeah, if you're so inclined.
Okay, I'll give it a shot. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the zone change, the zone change from planned development residential, which we approved previously, right?
Right.
To planned development commercial, to be used for RV storage on approximately 6 acres, with the recommendations of Planning Commission and staff, except on the front parcel, those units that border the subdivision to be not exceed, can have covered parking, can have a cover not to exceed 17 feet, with those further north?
Ask Sean.
East?
East.
Can go to 19 feet.
Yeah.
No lighting. Is it 19 even? With no lights, which was part of the recommendation, correct?
Yeah.
Hang on, let's,
Down, like, directed down.
nope. No lights.
No lights.
It
Under
will be,
under the covers. Yeah, right, no lights.
it'll be a problem for the neighbors if you have them.
There's a light pole there right now.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, I think if we could get through the motion first and then have the comment period
Yep,
after a second.
agreed.
then it would be easier.
And what am I missing, John?
I think everything else should be covered, like the block wall, those other items.
that's
are
included in the staff
it's all
recommendations?
covered, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you
it's
get
in
all
the
that,
staff
Christina?
recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion by, what's your name, Jimmy, and a second by Michelle. Now, any discussion on the motion? Yep. Christina's got it. Jimmy made it easy.
You did. Good job.
Okay. Well, this is an ordinance requiring a roll call vote, so all in favor of the motion, starting with Betty, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Joe, I know you spent a lot of time there when you worked there. I spent a lot of time there as a kid, but I think I might have spent more time there since I've been on the city council.
I was just thinking we should invite Marv over for
Right,
the
that's
family dinner,
right.
Jimmy,
That's
because
right.
you and I, we've,
You're not doing the same things though, Jimmy.
Right. Playing in that sewer pipe that Joe had coming out. Yeah.
That's good to know.
It did.
Oh, my goodness.
All right, Carol.
Okay, try to make this one a little bit clearer. All right, this is to consider an approval of an ordinance changing the zone for Desert Vista at Desert Canyon master plan from the R110 single-family residential, minimum lot size 10,000 square feet, to PDR planned development residential on approximately 35.66 acres, and this is located south of Southern Parkway and west of Desert Canyon Parkway. I do want to note really quick, it does say revised. This council has not even seen this before, but the Planning Commission saw it twice. So before they got to your stage, coming to the council, they decided to change it up. So it really was revised for the Planning Commission, but this is your first time seeing this. So this is Desert Canyon, the location where they want to put in this Desert Vista subdivision. General plan, we do have a few odd things in there, but the park is actually going to be in this location, and this was for a fire station that's in a different location, but residential, and R110. This location for it on the Desert Vista master plan. And here's a site plan. They are requesting to put in single-family homes. There will be 114 of them. And we've got Southern Parkway up here. They will have an amenity space. There will be an HOA. Amenity space will be over at this location. There will also be a trail corridor. This area right here, actually, there is an existing trail. They're going to preserve this trail corridor. And then they also want to keep this space here, this open space that will be dedicated to, or the HOA will maintain this open space, but they plan on dedicating this trail corridor to the city in the future. Let's see, 3.2 acres is the overall density, still keeping within low density residential. Just kind of an aerial here of how it will look within the development. Here's an aerial looking east. Going down Southern Parkway, just kind of right by the new school and the new Desert Hollow subdivision. And then here we are looking west, kind of the location. And there will be 3 phases for the lots, and this is showing the phases and typical houses. The reason why they brought it back is they actually had a lot more units. They decided to reduce the unit sizes and make the lots a little bit bigger. Just for your information, there's their material boards here. This is their existing standard sheet that they will be updating, basically just kind of switching it up from R110 to PD8, even though it's a little bit, the lots will be a little bit larger than PD8, some of them. Any questions? Be happy to answer those.
I probably missed it, but where that park and PF, whatever that is right now.
This one?
No, go back close, keep going, the other way.
Oh,
One
like
more.
this one?
Yeah. Do we just eliminate those or what?
Well,
Because the general plan says.
Yeah, the general plan, actually, we need to update it for this area because the general plan follows the first plan that they had, and then there's been some changes. This park here is actually going to be right here. It's just moved over. And then this PF public facility, that was for a fire station, but it's going to be put in a different location. Well, general plan, we look at general plan as more of bubbles, and so we do have the majority, it does need, we could clean it up to make it look a little bit better, but generally this majority of this area is residential, and that's what matches the general plan. The Desert Canyon, they will be coming in with another a general plan update, and we're hoping to maybe clean up some of these other general plan items that are bubbles that don't quite match
I guess that's my question, because then we don't show the public facility or the park anywhere right now.
Well, we do show it right here, and it will be in close facility proximity. Actually, I'm not sure where the fire station will be going. We'll have to figure that one out, or adjust that one to the location where it's going to be going.
It seems like we're missing a step somewhere along the line.
Well, what's happened is the general plan, like I said, it was the areas, the land use designations were created when Desert Canyons, before they even began. And what happens is things have changed. Oh, well, let's put the park over here. Let's put the fire station over here, would be better here. And just the general plan never got updated. Since we look at the general plan as just generalized, it's not a specific border. That's why it's kind of been let go, or it hasn't been adjusted with each change.
I don't want to see a set of precedents here that might come back to bite us somewhere else.
And I think I could help with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is part of a master plan that goes all the way back to Leucadia. And then when it was acquired by Quality, we sat down and updated that development agreement. And then we've sat down with Quality, and I see Kurt's here, and he can also come and speak to the park site. But as it started developing, it didn't sell the way they anticipated. So it's less dense than it was going to be. And we sat down with them and said, we all recognize that this plan, this development agreement no longer really works for all of us. So our plan is to sit down and redo the development agreement that will reflect the development as it's unfolded, and then have the remainder of that development also updated with their plans for development. Now, what that means is we've moved some park sites around because it hasn't been as dense. And so I understand the concern tonight, because if we take that park site off, where is it going to be? But we have the applicant here. They can commit on the record that park site is going to be right there to, I would say, the east.
Or is that
north? I don't know.
It would be the east. But
all right. So I have 2 votes for east. So
Joe, I do want to mention too that we do have a recorded development agreement that does show the park spot in this location,
as well as the number of parks that they are to dedicate. And that's one of the things we want to talk to them about, because we need to make sure they're within riding and walking distance of one another. But also, it's not going to be as dense as they had planned. So we're going to look at the overall need. I also will say this. They have already dedicated on the other side of the Southern Parkway a 10-acre park site.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've got the mountains that are right there, the hills, that they're actually going to, it's about 40 acres. And
keeping open space.
And they're going to dedicate that to us too. And hopefully that'll be a bike park. And so we're still working with them. Those are all part of the development agreement. So we feel comfortable in moving forward with this one here, knowing that we have those.
I feel comfortable with it too, because who we're dealing with. I just don't want to set a precedence that they come in and say, we don't want to put a park here, so we're going to put it residential.
Right. And then all of a sudden we find we have no other place to put a park.
That's right.
So, Sean, when you look at that aerial photograph of the Desert Canyons looking west, and you see the Rim Runner and the Desert Solace, anyway, you have it looks like a no man's space between the Utah border and the Arizona border.
I think
actually, the border's closer.
Isn't
it? Isn't it closer to the development?
Yeah, but it shows a pretty good sized area in there.
Yeah.
That actually is Utah and then the Arizona border, but it's pretty barren looking. What happens to that property?
Stays natural, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. There's no plans to develop beyond this line, Rim Runner.
Yeah, Rim Runner.
That's an error on the drawing.
Yeah, isn't it right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I thought so. I'm like, I swear, I remember seeing the line a lot closer. It is like right on the other side of their lots.
Oh, okay.
Not as far as it looks.
Yeah, it's just, you know, you get that shifting
Their
when you're up
backyard
in-
is Arizona.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so these
Yeah.
units will be 10 foot apart.
So they'll never have any neighbors?
We've gone from the 3-foot separation from lots, now to 10 foot.
Right, correct.
Take that to the.
And I do, Joe, I do want to point out too that every time we go through a site plan review with anything in Desert Canyons, we go back through the original development agreement that states, you know, this much park dedication with this, and then we go through with the Parks Department as well to make sure that we're on track, that we don't get behind and we get the park space that we have been allotted, and they actually develop it. And so we've kind of been working with them step by step as we go through the site plan process. Okay, okay. Okay.
And we still have some leverage, you know, so, okay.
All right.
Any other questions? Good comments?
You know, I'm just interested, Mayor, to ask Kurt, how the developments here where we have a 3-foot lot separation that brought in more of a affordable housing, now we're back to 10-foot separation. Is this just the increase of the cost of the homes that are available, or didn't that not work out so good as you thought?
No, so it's good to be with you, Mayor and Council tonight. And my name is Kurt Gordon from Desert Canyons. No, we have, I think that product is doing well. They're building quite a bit of that. We have.
You want a mixture, though?
Yeah, exactly. We have Desert Bluff and Desert Hollow, which is just right near this. And we presented our original Desert Vista plan, but our buyer, our builder wanted to have a little bit more room to build a little bigger home. So the product is doing well. It's the affordable product, but there's a need for something in between 3,500 square foot house and a 1,200 square foot house.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to, you know, mix them as you're doing.
Right.
I like it. Not all the same product in one place.
That's good.
Thank you, Kurt. All right. Anyone ready to make a motion or any other discussion or clarification?
Boy, Jimmy's doing so good, making motions.
These are pretty small lots.
Yeah, they're not exactly.
I'll make a motion.
Thank
Make
you.
a motion to amend the ordinance at the Desert Vista, for Desert Vista at Desert Canyon revised master plan from R110 to PDR, approximately 35.66 acres located south of the Southern Parkway and west of Desert Canyon Parkway.
Second.
Motion by Michelle. Who did the second? Is that Ed? Okay, Ed seconds the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Ed, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. At some point, council, we're going to have a little break, but go ahead and take individual breaks if you need to for a minute. You're good. Go. Don't wait.
No.
Yeah. Bye, Joe.
Guys are horrible.
Go ahead.
Ready?
Sorry, Ray.
No, just
I'm just
waiting on
asleep
us,
over
just
here.
ready. Next is item 10. It's a zone change. Consider approval of an ordinance changing a zone from R110 and also A20 to RE 12.5 on approximately 1.78 acres. This is west of 2580 East. It's in the Springs Estates. So here's an aerial. You can see the springs here. We're going to be talking about this area right in here. This shows the general plan, all of the open space here, and then the site's approximately here. And this shows the current zoning, the R110 and the A20 portion. You'll notice around this is all RE 12.5. So if you kind of visualize, this is the shape that they're wanting to change the zone. So they're taking a portion, kind of looks pink here, R110, and A20, and it'll become part of the subdivision, and it would be RE12 to match. And basically, that's pretty much it. This shows, again, the site, shows the floodway, shows 100-year flood, shows erosion hazard. All of those things have to be mitigated, satisfaction of the city and FEMA for elevations, but it looks like it should fit in here well with the RE 12.5, and that's the request. And that concludes staff's comments.
So there's your bigger lots, Joe.
Looks good to me.
Motion to approve an ordinance changing the zone from R110, single-family residence, 10,000 square foot minimum lot size, and A20 agricultural 20-acre minimum lot size, to RE 12-12.5 residential estate, 12,500 square feet minimum lot size on approximately 1.75 acres, generally located at 2580 East Street in the Spring Estates.
Second.
Motion by Betty with the second by Jimmy. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Betty, say aye.
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 Yeah. Thank you. Motion carries. Joe, where'd you go? I didn't even know you were gone. No, I'm just kidding. Motion carries. Joe's abstaining because he wasn't here for the discussion. Thank you, Joe.
Next item is item 11. It's
Thanks,
also,
thanks, Ron, for your patience. Thanks.
Poor
Go ahead.
Lori in the back. Laurie.
Next item is item 11. It's also a zone change. Consider approval of an ordinance changing zoning from C3, which is general commercial, to C2, which is highway commercial, for the Commerce Point Commercial Center, generally located at the intersection of Bluff and Black Ridge Drive on about 3.57 acres. Honestly, this is just a cleanup. Here's the general plan, shows all of this area in red is commercial. The highlighted outlined areas where we'd like to have the zone changed. And if you look at it here on the zoning map, everything here is C2. This is a little different at C3. It should be cleaned up to be C2 with the rest of the development. Over here should be the new Maverick. You can see all the construction and the grading activity that's going on here right now for that Commerce Point. So that is a simple request, and it's really generated staff to clean up to make this all C2.
Yeah, that's right. It was maybe it's cleanup. That's a good way to say it.
And that concludes staff's comments.
Any questions, council? This will just make sense to have it be all the same zone. I think originally maybe the owner thought it was, or there was just some miscommunication going back, I think, some years. Is that right, John? Okay.
So all C2 it'll be, right?
Yeah.
All, yeah.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and make a motion if you're ready, Mayor.
Yep.
Changing the zone from C3 to C2 for the Commerce Point Commercial Center.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy with the second by Betty. Any discussion? All in favor, starting with Ed this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. That's good to get that done. Welcome, Wes.
Thank you.
Hey, Wes, I met your new speaking partner that you're going to have.
My what?
Your new speaking partner on Sundays?
Okay, item 1312 is a request to consider approval of purchase of city property located east of Lot 32 at Whisper Ridge Phase 4 in order to convey hillside drainage through said lot to Fandango Circle. So here's the Whisper Ridge subdivision, here's Fandango Circle. This
Such
is
an
lot
awesome,
30.
That's an awesome name, don't you think, for a street?
Fandango.
I wish I lived on Fandango.
People pay big money to live on Fandango. So this is the property line right here of Lot 32, and I've kind of highlighted roughly about the 7 feet that they want to purchase of the hillside property, which is,
She asked me not to. All right, Michelle's going.
which is owned by the city. So their proposal is, their request is to purchase this 7 feet of property that runs along that easterly property line to collect and convey the drainage from the hillside through their lot to Fandango Circle. That's their request. And their proposal is to purchase the property for $1.50 a square foot. Obviously, that's at your discretion, but that was their proposal.
Which is essentially what we do typically for surplus property that's, not really of use to anyone but maybe that property owner.
Difficult property.
Yeah. Questions, council, on this? And I think if you are inclined to make a motion to approve it, you have to include the purchase price at $1.50 a square foot, $1.50 per square foot.
And it would be subject, we've written the purchase and sell agreement, and legal still is reviewing it, so it obviously.
So that would come back?
Yeah, well, no, it'd just be subject to their review and approval of that.
All right.
So they're meeting
Okay.
appraised value.
Right, and then we would just add whatever the value is you determine for the sale of the property.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and make a motion, Mayor, if you're ready. I'll make a motion that we approve the sale of city-owned property for, to assist in the runoff for Lot 32 at Whisper Ridge for $1.50 a square foot for approximately 1,696 square feet.
Subject to legal
Subject to
approval?
legal review and approval.
Of the purchase and sell agreement.
Of the purchase and sale agreement.
Thank you.
Second.
We had a motion by Jimmy, but Ed made a quiet motion, or second,
that's okay.
so we'll accept that. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously, minus Michelle.
It's a good thing we did that while she was gone. It might not have.
Might not have passed.
Right.
Okay, item 14 is a request to consider approval of an amended final subdivision plat for Block 8.
14 or 13?
13, what did I say,
13.
14?
Yep.
Good catch, sorry about that. Okay, is a request to consider approval of an amended final subdivision plat for Block 8, 1948 addition to Worthen subdivision by merging a portion of lots 1 and 2 and all of lots 3 and 4 of Block 8 together into one lot. I was a little confused on this. Surveyor kind of set me straight. So this was subdivided a number of years ago, back in 1948, before I was born. And so.
Just a couple years,
Just a
Wes?
couple years, yeah. Uh-huh. I'm not sure who was alive in 1948. But anyway, so there's an auto parts store right here. There's an auto parts store right here. I was just joking. And somehow they subdivided this property years ago without going through any type of city approval. Anyway, this is what was left of the property. The owner ended up buying these lots, and now they want to just merge them into one lot.
Is that property behind Tom's Deli?
Yeah. Yeah, so right here's that auto parts store that's kind of out there. And yeah, yeah. So Tom's Deli and Croshaw Pies and that is, yeah, right over here.
Tom's Deli.
Yeah. This isn't going to affect Crowshaw's Pies, right? That's
no.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
That'd be bad.
No, we're okay there. Any other questions? Closer it gets to 7 o'clock, the more crazy we're going to get at them. Oh, it's after 7. Well, I look up there and I'm still thrown. Okay, so any other comments from staff or questions for staff, council? Seeing none, then ready for a motion.
I should make the motion because I'm the only one that was around then.
Okay.
I would make a motion that we approve amended final subdivision plat for Block 8, 1948 edition of Worthen subdivision by merging lots 1 and 2 and lots 3 and 4.
Second.
Motion by Joe with a second by Ed. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Michelle abstains just due to being not listening for a minute. She was gone. You can't hear what if you're not present. All right, 14 now.
Okay, item 14 is a request to consider approval of the final subdivision plat for Sun River Commons Phase 3. It's a one-lot commercial subdivision located in the northeast corner of the intersection of Sun River Parkway and Pioneer Parkway. So here's Pioneer Road right here. Here's the Terrible Herbst right here. The lot is right here. The shaded area is a utility and access corridor that would be, because each lot will have that cross their lot. These won't be pads, and so they'll dedicate a utility and access corridor through here for these lots. And then you'll notice that it disappears on Lot 3, and that will be dealt with their CC&Rs and so forth of Lot 3, kind of like they did on Lot 1.
So we changed, that's the one that changed from 2 stories to 3 stories.
Yeah, I believe so.
Mayor, I would love to move
Go for
that
it.
we approve a final subdivision plat for the Sun River Commons Phase 3.
Second.
Motion by Betty with the second by Michelle. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 15 is a request to consider approval of a final subdivision plat for Aspen Estates Phase 9. The request is, let's see, the property is located at 2930 South and 3330 East. Zoning is R18. So if you look on your vicinity map right here, here's 3000 East. Here is like that Segmiller property that only has the one house on it. And then Crimson Ridge is somewhere right here. So it's east of 3000, just north of Crimson Ridge.
Questions on this one, council? Ready for a motion?
I turned it off. Motion to approve a final subdivision plat for Aspen Estates Phase 9.
Second.
Motion by Michelle with a second by Ed. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Number 16.
Hey,
Okay,
Mayor, would
yes.
you entertain a change to the agenda real quick?
Yep.
So it was pointed out to me that item number 20 requires the presence of our fire chief, and I thought,
You want him to hang out for a
I
minute?
just asked those two what they were doing
Well,
here
and
still.
Lori, I felt,
maybe,
she's sitting back
and then the
there.
other one,
Yeah, it's 19
I mean,
and
we're
20.
so close now, but it's symbolic, right? It's
It's a thought that counts.
No, you're not. You're not good. I'm just kidding. Let's do
19
19.
and 20.
Let's do
Yeah.
19 and then 20. Will that help you?
Let's do
Will you feel
19.
better if we do that? Okay, let's do 19.
So 19's fairly simple, with James Van Fleet resigning his position in the Energy Services Department. We need an alternate to represent us on the UAMPS, with UAMPS. And so we put forward the name of Brian Jepson as that name to serve as our alternate.
Sounds good to me. Anything you want to say about it? Come on up here.
Yeah,
Come
since
on
you stayed
down.
this long, you should say something.
She's got her keys in one hand.
I just, really. Brian Jepson runs our operations center for our system. He has for about 15 years. He's a great guy. Knows all the contracts, knows all the people in place. I think he'll be a good replacement for James at representing me at UAMPS when I can't be there.
Love it.
Okay?
Love your organization.
Thanks.
Ready for a motion?
You're still the representative, he's just the alternate.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Motion to approve, Mayor, resolution naming Brian Jepson as the alternate representative for UAMPS.
Second.
Motion by Ed with a second by Michelle. Any discussion?
Go home.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Come on, someone's got to oppose it.
It's a resolution.
It's a resolution, yes.
Oh, it's a resolution, sorry. So all in favor, starting with Betty this time, say aye.
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 Huh, motion still carries. All right. Let's go to 20. Are there going to be any fireworks in St. George in a week or so? A couple weeks? Yeah?
Yes.
All right. Well, then let's talk about an ordinance prohibiting the use of fireworks in restricted areas. Have Chief Stoker come up. It's going to be similar, but even, I think, better in terms of user-friendly tool to make sure we understand. Right, Chief?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is our annual ordinance that we do restricting the ignition sources. As you read through the, what those are, they're any ignition sources, fireworks, lighters, matches, sky lanterns. We've had a big problem with sky lanterns in the past. Utah's actually put these in the code as outlawed in the state of Utah. We've had a lot of fires throughout the state caused by these sky lanterns. We still have quite a few people that do call us. If you have questions, public, just give us a call and we can help you through those kind of things. But any smoking materials, things like that. And so what we've done is we've updated our map, and that is located on the City of St. George website, right on the front page now. It was, and then also there's some more information on the fire department's website. But this map we've actually spent a lot of time on this year. Our Fire Marshal Kevin Taylor, along with our administrative assistant, went through, and they've actually defined it a lot better. Some of the areas, the boundaries were kind of broad, just a street, but we've actually taken the measurements following our ordinance. And so it's an interactive map. Just type your address in, and it'll pull your address up, and it'll show you if it's a legal area.
Is it working now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's up and running. So, like I say, it's located right on the website. As soon as you open it up, it's one of the front.
Cool.
One of the items on the front of the web page. That first page you pull up. So, again, we're anticipating a busy year. We've already had several brush fires in the city. We've actually responded to a couple up on Cottonwood Springs, the old Turkey Farm Road. A lot of the locals know it.
It could be scary, couldn't it?
It's
with all the
pretty
rain
heavy.
and-
We're working together as a county fire chiefs association. We had Justin Grenier and our Cindy Flowers and our dispatch center actually set up a separate paging system now for the county fire chiefs on our Everbridge system. So just not only do we get our own calls, but if there's a brush fire anywhere in the county, all the fire chiefs in the county will actually get that notification so that we can kind of be prepared if it sounds like it's going to get, where we may have to go help with mutual aid or they may have to come and help us. We can start getting our crews ready before that call comes out. So, but it's, quite a bit of growth with the cheatgrass and other flammable wildland fuels out there, so and they dried out rather rapidly. But like I said, we've had 2 fires up that Cottonwood Springs Road, and it's it's heavy fuel this year with those. Even though it's light fuels, it travels very quickly, and so we're anticipating a busy year.
Okay, so I typed my address in, and it says fireworks restricted.
So you'll have to come over to my house and light them off.
Dang it. So if it's in this, then if I zoom in, if I'm in the red area,
you're restricted.
I'm across the street from the red area.
Yep. So that'll show you actually right on the property lines and the.
Perfect.
So we had some questions last year, especially with law enforcement when we had to issue citations. So this really defines it a lot better. Like I said, we spent a lot of time with our IT and GIS staff here in the city and really define those areas a lot better. So again, anywhere in those restricted areas, even if you're lighting legal fireworks, you can be cited, and if they cause a fire anywhere in the city, you can possibly pay the suppression cost and any damages that go with that. So we hope people use common sense.
We hope so too, and I like anything that makes it as clear as possible for people, and we'll do the best job we can to highlight it on our website as you've indicated, and Facebook. We'll make sure that David does that and do everything we can, right?
Yes.
Like to avoid most especially injuries, but also the damage to personal and public property that's potential. And we've seen some tragic ones in the past, so.
Yeah, we've had some major fires caused by fireworks along with around the state. So again, it's very difficult to completely ban those fireworks. So again, we're doing our best as a department and as a city to try to make sure we're allowing those, but doing it as safely as possible.
So, Chief, we're still going to have fireworks at the university in
Yes.
NC State?
Yes, it'll be just like we have in the past couple of years down there on the the stadium, and then the fireworks will be just east of the stadium. And we'll be there on the softball
Right.
complexes.
Got a lot more seating.
So not even sprinklers? Sparklers. We have a sprinkler or the sparkler.
Yes, any type of ignition source, so that includes all your sparklers.
Sparklers.
There's actually more injuries and things
Yeah.
caused by sparklers than some of the other fireworks, so. Again, we just request that everybody use common sense. If you are lighting fireworks off, there's some great tips on our website, also the State Fire Marshal's website, on how to safely do those. And, you know, keep bucket of water around to soak those types of things in so they don't cause problems.
Council, if there are no questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve this ordinance prohibiting the use of fireworks in restricted areas.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Michelle with the second by Jimmy. Any discussion? All in favor, starting with Ed this time, say aye.
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 Aye, in interest of safety, but
Right.
she's
my
ticked.
patriotism is just hurting.
Well, as you look at the map, there's lots of places you can. Just, you've got so many friends, Betty, you can go down the street, you'll be all right.
Right.
That
All
way you
right.
don't have to clean up the mess in front of your
That's
house.
true.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you,
That
appreciate it.
motion passed unanimously with a little hesitance from our patriotic Councilwoman Betty Ariel. Way to go, Betty. Okay, now we'll go back to item 16, I think it was, Wes. Wes and John, Carol, you guys don't want to go home, right?
I'm sorry to them, too.
Okay, item 16 is a request to consider approval of a preliminary plat for Auburn Hills Phase 2. This is a preliminary plat for a 59-lot residential subdivision located west of Southern Parkway and south of Lagoon Parkway, zone is PDRTNZ. It'll be located, this will be in the Desert Colored Development. So again, so Phase 1 that was approved basically sits in this area right through here, kind of encompasses all that graded area that you can see. So this would be Phase 1 right through here. The request is now to preliminary plat Phase 2, which would be this development right here. These would all be public roads, here, here, and here, and then you can see the alleys and then the civic space right there.
Wes, could you let the public know that's listening to TNZ, what the meaning of that traditional neighborhood development is, this distinguishes it?
It provides for an opportunity to do, and John will chastise me, I'm not going to say it right, but to provide for different types of housing within a development.
Is that okay,
For somebody
John?
simple like me, that's how I think of it.
Close enough?
It's close enough.
I'm sorry, Wes.
Yeah, thanks.
I liked it.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
I understood it.
Thanks, Wes, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Anything else on that one, Wes?
Nope.
Council, any questions?
Motion to approve the preliminary plat for Auburn Hills Phase 2.
Second.
Motion by Michelle with a second by Jimmy. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, item 17 is a request to consider approval of a preliminary
See,
plat.
you can't say it either.
Oh, gosh.
It's hard.
It is hard. Preliminary plat for Legacy Village. It's for a one-lot commercial subdivision located southwest on Dixie Drive, south of Canyon View Drive. Zone is PDC. This lot is proposed to be developed as an independent living, assisted living, and memory care facility. You remember this came before you a while back. So this is the area for the one-lot subdivision. They would be required to dedicate and improve Rogers Road up through their site here and to then finish Dixie Drive along here. The other unique thing, they have proposed, they've struggled creating detention on their site and have proposed to put detention on the other side of the road here. We looked at it and thought, with the coming regulations that the EPA and the state's going to require for development next March, we actually looked at the possibility of them creating a detention basin that would serve whatever portion of the Rogers property further to the west would drain to here and then possibly dedicate, and then their proposal is to dedicate that to city and make it become kind of a regional detention basin. And so their proposal is to take the drainage from here and other areas that drain here on their property and create a regional detention basin that the city would then own and maintain. That's their proposal.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that benefits the city to maintain that and make sure.
Well, it benefits them, and you know, we'd have to also look at, right now, you know, we charge an ERU for drainage on residential and commercial, and we may have to look at adjusting that a little bit, put together an agreement so that they would be responsible to also help maintain that in the future, because they wouldn't be required anymore to, for instance, on this light, every year you have to go out and have somebody go out and inspect your detention facility and then write a report and so forth. That would then in turn to the city now to be responsible for that. And we'd have to maintain it and so forth. And so we'd look at probably adjusting the ERUs, work out an agreement where they help participate in the cost to maintain that detention basin, since the city would own and maintain it.
The thing is, if we leave it to someone else to do it,
Right.
and they don't, then,
That's going to be a big
yeah.
facility.
Right.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
Appreciate staff working through that. Sean, you good with it? Okay. Ready for a motion?
Motion to approve the preliminary plat for Legacy Village.
Motion by Michelle with a second by Jimmy. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay,
Minus
item
pay.
18 is a request to consider approval of a preliminary plat for Tonnequin Cove Phases 2 through 4. It's the subdivision located south of Curly Hollow Drive and south of the existing Tonnequin Cove Phase 1 zone is R110. So here's the area right here. Here is Phase 1 that was built here. Here's the future rock park right there. So this is the layout of their subdivision. The rock park is right here. The one on this one is they are proposing, so they will build that portion of the road that they're required to build right through here for their development. However, they would like the city, they would like to dedicate the rock park to the city now and then have the city participate in improving that portion of the road with their development. So that's their proposal, is to dedicate the rock park to the city, with the city then participating on building the road here. They don't want to dedicate this quite yet to the rock park. We've looked at it, and there's a possibility. Right now on the general plan, it's shown as open space. However, I went out there with parks. We looked at it. There's a possibility that there could be a couple lots built in here that would not impact the rock park. And so possibly this would then be finished in the future if they were to develop some lots here, or we'd have to work out something with them.
What's a rock park?
Well, there's a bunch of rocks there.
That is a rock park. It's all rock, and it's going to be a park where kids can come
Kids are
and
gonna love
climb
it.
around and run around and just have a good time in the park.
Is this going to be close to Curly Hollow and Tonnequin, that's
right there.
yelling for parks all the time? That
Yes.
This is going to be a special park for
Yeah,
that
it's just
particular
it's going to be
group?
a natural park where
Wow.
people can come and, it'll really benefit the Tonnequin area more than anybody, just because it's right there and it's adjacent to their development. They can get in there and kind of hike around and so forth.
I hope those folks are pleased with that.
Yeah, it'd be a nice area. Nice use of some open space.
I'm not sure it's exactly what they're looking for,
No,
but it's,
Yeah.
I think they'll appreciate being able to keep it there.
Well, the dumbest thing to do is to have a park with ponds and pools. I've said this before. And then say, do not play on these things, because kids want to. And I spent the afternoon at the Children's Museum, and my two that were with me climbed on those dinosaurs and slid down their noses and punched them and kicked them and play. It was really fun to see those be used the way, well, not the kicking and the punching, but, just playing on them. They loved them.
Well, some of our most popular parks are natural
parks.
Yeah,
So,
it's
it's great.
Yeah.
If there are no other questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve this preliminary plat for Tonopah Cove Phase 2 through 4.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Michelle, second by Jimmy. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Getting down to the bottom of the agenda, I don't have any appointments at this time. I'd suggest we hold on reports unless there's anything critical. Thank you, planning staff, appreciate you. Just a note, in case you didn't notice, the County Commission did approve implementing the fourth quarter transportation transit tax. That starts, I believe, July 1st. I believe that's when it starts being collected. Adam will address that more with Cameron and with us in the future in terms of what that will mean. I got some revised numbers, estimates, and you know, it's pretty significant for us. You know, the public's probably wondering about this. There have been a couple stories, and there's some social media going on right now. And you know, again, the legislature, was it last year, Sean, or 2 years ago? Yeah, actually gave counties, and if not counties by a certain date, I believe it was July of 2020, then cities the ability to implement these specific taxes. And we know it's not popular. We also, just a reminder that in St. George, the citizens of St. George passed this tax, but it had to be passed at the time for the whole county, by the whole county, in order for it to be imposed. And so Ivans, St. George, and Springdale communities actually passed it. So I guess I don't feel as bad about this being implemented by the county commission. And we certainly, as we knew then, we know we need the funding. It's just, you know, it's always tough to impose a tax. So at least this way it is county-wide. You know, I don't know. We'll see what that means for us in terms of dollars, but what it will mean is we will get 0.10% transportation, which can include trails, by the way, and 0.10% transit. And we'll talk more about that and what it means. This is totally separate from whatever might happen between St. George and Springdale in terms of any kind of a transit or transportation system. And I actually applaud the commission for at least keeping that separate, and we'll have more discussion on that very soon. In fact, I think you were all notified. I believe there's a meeting next week in Hurricane that we're invited to kind of update us on that. I can't remember what night that is. I think it is too. You're right, it's Wednesday. Yep. It's not going to be popular, but on the other hand, I'll tell you, and I don't know how you guys are, but most of the comments I get on the radio are transportation related. And, you know, I think that we're at a critical stage in the life of our SunTrans system where, you know, personally, I think if we can serve a broader geography and have more frequent stops, you know, or pickups, if you will, I think that's going to make a difference for more people, have it be more usable. I think we personally ought to be spending most of that most of those funds on our own transit. By far, most of those funds. It will be significant. It will enable us to do some things. I mean, to the tune of $1.5 million a year or more for transit, and similar amount for transportation, obviously. So anyway, that's important, and
Are we hiring a new?
We will be hiring a new transit manager soon.
And what time is the meeting in Hurricane?
7 to 9, and I believe it's at that, what do you call it? It's their arts auditorium or whatever. It's the old school auditorium there. So, yes, correct. I don't know what they call it, but I think it was in the email. Okay, did you have a comment?
That'll change your budget you just approved, right?
Yes, it will. Yep. The one thing, Doug, it you know, obviously it takes, there's some time before we'll see that, but they will start collecting it. We usually get that, D, what, a quarter behind, a couple months behind? Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. We approved it tonight. That was it. Yep. Correct. Yep, exactly. That's it. Thank you.
Which side of the road? This side? By the high school?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Now, we got a couple other meetings we got to do, so should we, at this point, we don't want to adjourn. Should we move to?
You can adjourn out of the regular meeting.
Adjourn, and then we can come back in.
And do the close.
Okay.
Redevelopment agency.
How do you want to do this in terms of, you know, time? Should we go ahead and do the neighborhood redevelopment agency meeting now? Should we do them both now?
I would recommend that we do the redevelopment agency.
Do that for sure now?
Reconvene as the.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn from city council.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Betty, second by Jimmy to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now I need a motion to go into the neighborhood redevelopment agency meeting, correct, of the city of St. George.
Move to go into the neighborhood redevelopment agency meeting of the city of St. George.
Okay, we got a motion by Betty and I think a second by Ed.
Sorry, Ed, a little faster.
It's all right. And any discussion on that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are in the neighborhood redevelopment agency meeting of the city of St. George. D.
Yes, again. The first item is for the fiscal year 2018-19 budget amendments, and we just have a couple, and they are because we're going to receive a little bit more in revenues than we anticipated. The first one is in the Fort Pierce EDA number 2, and the overall amount is $60,000, and with 10 of that in extra interest earnings and $50,000 extra property tax revenues, and that will enable us to transfer about 20% to the housing fund, and then the additional amount just goes into our appropriated fund balance in that EDA. And item number 2 is pretty much identical in the way that we'll transfer that and recognize the revenues, just a different amount of $30,000 and $6,000 transfer. And as you'll recall, the budget openings that we did earlier, we were looking at maybe a transfer of $23,000 in to the housing fund. These transfers are the transfers out of these funds. So we have to keep those balanced, and that's what those 2 budget openings are. A little confusing, but basically we're getting more revenues, so therefore we can transfer 20% of those additional revenues into the housing fund. Yeah. They're better than we thought. However, I will say that EDA number 2 in Fort Pierce, this is the last fiscal year for that district. It will mature. It has a 15-year time limit on it, and it will mature. So, unfortunately, but we're grateful to get a little bit extra money this year.
What, 15 years already?
Right. Yeah, that was the Wells Dairy is what triggered that district initially, and
Which is now Dean Foods.
it's now Dean Foods, and so, yes, 15 years has just kind of flown by. And that's all I have for the budget openings, if you...
Okay, so we need to hold public hearings, correct, on
Right.
both of those?
That's correct.
So for this vast audience, I will open the public hearing, and for anyone who's come to offer input on the fiscal year 2018-19 budget amendments that have been proposed, as have been presented to us. No? Nothing? I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for your for a motion if you're so inclined, right? This is, because these are amendments, they do need to be approved.
Motion to approve the amended fiscal year 2018-19 budget.
For the neighborhood redevelopment.
Yes, for the neighborhood
agency.
RDA.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy, second by Ed. Any discussion? All in favor, starting with Betty this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Now, we'll open the public hearing. Well, do you need to say something first or not?
I'll just really quickly, so the redevelopment area governs the, we have 7 districts, 6 which are active. So we have 4 in Fort Pierce, 1 in the Dixie Center, and 1 in Mill Creek. We do have the Central Business District, which is in the downtown area. It's been created but not invoked, so we don't have a budget for that. The Central Business District tax revenues, other than we do own the hotel property within that district. So you have 7 budgets under the RDA that that we're asking for approval for, and it totals $3.9 million in expenditures. And otherwise, it's fairly simple and straightforward. So
When you say not invoked, is there a time limit or a time frame?
there's actually not. We try to invoke it within 2 or 3 years after we create it, but it's a timing thing. If we invoke it too early before new tax increment has been generated.
Then you
For
waste
example,
it.
the City View project, we want to wait till that's completed before we invoke it. If we would have invoked it when it was raw ground, then there's no additional value, taxable value put on that. So we want to wait until it's completed, and then we'll go ahead and invoke that, and that will maximize the tax increment that we receive.
Wow.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, the EDAs and CDAs fall under the umbrella of the RDA.
Of the RDA.
Good job, Jimmy.
Yes, that's accurate. Now they call them CRAs, but, yeah, we could.
We don't need to get into that.
Sean's saying no, because it's pretty complicated. Yeah. Anyway.
MOUSE.
And that's all I have to say.
Okay, so, council, any other questions or fun comments? Okay, then I will open the public hearing for anyone who's come to offer input on this proposed fiscal year 2019-2020 budget for the St. George Neighborhood Redevelopment Agency. Oh, Doug was thinking about it. Okay. All right, then I will close the public hearing and come back to you, council. Actually, in this case, I don't know if you're the council. What are you, the board? We're a board member now. We're board members.
Motion to approve the resolution to adopt the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget for the St. George Neighborhood Redevelopment Agency.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy with the second by Michelle. Any discussion? All in favor, starting with Ed this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. And now we have some minutes, I believe, correct, that we need to approve?
Motion to approve
Second.
the minutes from the meetings held on April 19th, 2018 and June 21st, 2018.
And there was- Okay, so there was a motion by Michelle, a second by Jimmy, and all in favor of the motions, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, now I would entertain a motion to adjourn from the Neighborhood Redevelopment Agency of the City of St. George.
So moved.
Motion by Ed, second by Michelle. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Now, should we go straight to the Municipal Building Authority?
Yeah.
I'd entertain a motion to go into that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Michelle with the close second. We'll give it to Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Any discussion on the motion to go into Municipal Building Authority of the City of St. George? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, welcome to the Municipal Building Authority of the City of St. George. Sean, are you going to address this item?
Yes, Mayor, we, and I'm not sure of the date, but some years ago with the school district, we're the conduit as a municipal building authority.
Sometime in 2000?
Yes, before I got here. How's that?
That's good.
To issue bonds in order to rehab the Woodward School Building.
Yep.
Those have been paid off actually for a few years now. So this is a cleanup item to, under the agreement, to go ahead and clear that lien that we have on the property, and it formally will be in the name, free and clear, of the school district.
Huh. All right.
Unless you have something you need from the school district.
Can we buy it?
Well, yeah, what if we want to buy that building? Yeah, we probably need to do this so that we could do something else down the road if that were to happen.
That's right.
Yeah,
Ready for motion?
yes.
Motion to approve a resolution releasing the lien from the bond resolution entered into
In the year.
entered into in 2000 regarding the Woodward Building.
Second.
Thank you. Michelle makes the motion and Betty seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, starting with Jimmy, say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Just had to throw you a curveball. Motion carries unanimously. Now we have some minutes to be approved, if you're so inclined, on the meeting, from the meeting held January 20th, 2011.
What if none of us were here?
We just never,
It could turn into a vicious cycle. We could have approved them then, but then we would have had another meeting where you would have to approve the minutes again, so.
So
I
moved.
was here.
Did anyone understand what he just said?
No, but so moved.
I was here.
motion
It
by
did.
Betty and a second by,
Me.
You were here.
I was here. I think that was Michelle. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. How-
Yes.
Yes. And I'm the only one that was there. Yep. Yeah, they're, yep. Okay, and we need a motion to adjourn from the Building Authority of the City of St. George.
Move to adjourn from the Building Authority, Municipal Building Authority meeting.
Second.
Motion by Betty, second by Jimmy. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Need a motion to go to reconvene city council meeting, or do I? Yes, I do.
So moved.
Second. Okay,
Third.
motion by Michelle.
Jimmy.
And second by Jimmy to reconvene into city council meeting. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are now back in city council.
Move
and
to go into
Closed session.
closed
meeting
session. Thank you. Closed
For
meeting.
purposes of
Real
property?
estate and property and personnel.
Okay. Is
She
that
covered
right?
it all.
Is that right, Adam? Okay.
Second.
Motion by Betty, second by Michelle. Any discussion? All in favor, starting with Michelle, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Way to go. Thanks, everybody. We'll have a quick break and